young girl is scorned at an elite celebration until the powerful patriarch reveals his secret. On a night of celebration, a young girl finds herself on the fringes of a world of wealth and power. Emily, a forgotten granddaughter, faces prejudice and rejection from her own family. But an unexpected figure, with a secret to reveal, will forever change the fate of the Crawfords. The night was wrapped in an atmosphere of celebration and luxury at the imposing Crawford mansion. It was William Crawford's 100th birthday, the patriarch of one of the most influential families in the region. The mansion, with its towering columns and lush gardens, was filled with illustrious guests, all there to honor the man who, through his cunning and hard work, had built an empire. Among the attendees, a 12-year-old girl, Emily, tried to feel at ease among so many important figures. Emily was William's granddaughter, but unlike the other family members, her presence there was not universally welcomed. With her brown skin and curly hair, Emily was the product of an interracial relationship from the past. Her parents, who had tragically passed away when she was very young, had left her in the care of her maternal grandmother, far from the opulence of the Crawford. The opportunity to attend this grand party was a rare chance to connect with her roots, but she would soon discover that acceptance would not be easily attained. As the guests mingled, Emily tried to approach her cousins, Sarah and James. They were a bit older, 15 and 16 years old respectively, and seemed much more comfortable in that sophisticated environment. Sarah, with her cold and haughty expression, was the first to notice Emily's presence. "Who let you in here?" Sarah asked with a look of disdain. "This place isn't for you, you know?" "Not with that appearance." James, who was beside Sarah, let out a sarcastic laugh. "Yeah, you should be serving the food, not attending the party," he added with a malicious smile. Their words hit Emily like a blow. She tried to respond, but her voice died in her throat. She felt exposed, as if all eyes were on her, judging her. The laughter of Sarah and James echoed in her mind, amplifying her humiliation. Tears began to well up in her eyes, but she refused to cry there, in front of everyone. With a heavy heart and deep sadness, she turned and ran out of the hall, ignoring the disapproving looks that followed her. In the garden, Emily found refuge by a small lake, where the music and laughter of the party became just distant murmurs. She sat on a bench, allowing the tears to finally fall. The soft sound of the water against the shore was her only comfort on that cold and lonely night. She wondered why she was there, in a place where she was clearly not welcome, and whether she would ever feel part of that family. Lost in her thoughts and pain, Emily didn't notice the approach of a tall and imposing figure. William Crawford, the family patriarch, was known for his aversion to large parties and preferred to spend his time in solitude, reflecting on life and his many years of experience. He had stepped away from the commotion of the party for a quiet walk through the gardens and was surprised to find his young granddaughter crying alone. "Emily?" His voice was deep, but it carried an unexpected softness. The girl looked up, surprised, quickly trying to wipe away her tears with the back of her hands. William sat beside her, his grave expression softening a bit. "Why are you out here alone?" Emily hesitated, still feeling vulnerable and ashamed, but something about her grandfather's calm presence encouraged her to speak. I don't feel part of this," she began, her voice trembling. "They said I don't belong here, that I shouldn't be here." William's face became thoughtful, his eyes fixed on the lake. He took a deep breath before speaking. "You know, Emily, I felt that way in my life too, as if I didn't belong anywhere. But I learned that a person's worth is not defined by others, but by who they are and what they believe in." Emily looked at him with curiosity. It was rare to hear William talk about feelings or personal experiences. He continued, "This family has a rich and complicated history, and you are an important part of it. Don't let anyone make you feel less than you are." Emily felt a warm comfort spread through her chest. She had never imagined that her grandfather, always so reserved and austere, could understand her pain. "Thank you, Grandpa," she murmured with a small, shy smile. William gave a slight smile in return, something rare on his usually serious face. "Let's go back to the party," he said, standing up and offering his hand to Emily. I think it's time for some truths to be told." With her grandfather's firm hand guiding her, Emily felt a new sense of belonging. Though she didn't know what William planned to say, she felt strengthened by his presence and the promise to face the difficulties together. When William and Emily returned to the main hall, an uncomfortable silence fell over the crowd. The patriarch's presence was a rarity at social events, and curiosity about what he was going to say hung in the air. William walked to the stage, where the band had stopped playing, and took the microphone. He held Emily's hand, keeping her by his side, and looked out at the crowd. "Dear friends and family," he began, his firm voice resonating through the hall. "Today is a celebration of life, of history, and of family. And it is about family that I would like to speak." Everyone's eyes were fixed on him, and Emily could feel the tension rising. "Many of you know only part of this family's story. Today, I want to share something that perhaps some of you don't know." William paused, observing the reactions of his children and other relatives. "My granddaughter, Emily, is as much a part of this family as any of us. She carries within her the courage and strength of her parents, who faced prejudice and difficulties to build a life together. My son, Emily's father, married an extraordinary woman whose courage and love continue to live on in our family." Whispers began to spread among the guests, some in surprise, others in disapproval. William continued, "The story of the Crawfords is a story of overcoming, of accepting our differences, and of valuing what truly matters, character and integrity. Those who judge based on appearances or prejudices do not understand the true spirit of this family." He paused, looking directly at his children, especially Sarah and James, who had humiliated Emily. "Those who speak of exclusion, who belittle, are dismissing the very legacy that this family has built." There was a moment of tense silence after his words, until a round of applause began, timid at first, but soon growing in intensity. Many of the guests stood in support, while others, including some of William's children, remained seated, with expressions of frustration and discontent. Emily looked at her grandfather, feeling a mixture of relief and gratitude. For the first time that night, she felt that she truly belonged there. William's public revelation caused a great stir among the guests, and especially within the family itself. His children, particularly the older ones, were not at all pleased with what they heard. For them, the exposure of a part of the family's history that they preferred to keep secret was more than just an outburst. It was a direct attack on the status and image they had fought to maintain. Robert, the oldest of William's children, gathered his siblings immediately after their father's speech. They met in a secluded corner of the mansion, away from the curious eyes of the guests. "He's clearly losing his mind," Robert began, his voice full of disdain. "Talking about these things, especially at a party with so many important people, it's evident that he's no longer capable of making sensible decisions." Margaret, the second oldest, nodded in agreement. "We need to act quickly. If he continues with these ideas, he'll end up destroying everything we've built. We need to prove that he's no longer fit to lead the family or the company." Driven by greed and the fear of losing control over the inheritance, the children began to plan a way to destabilize William's position. They decided that the best way to do this was to question his sanity. To that end, they hired lawyers and experts who could help them build a case against their own father, claiming that he was mentally incapacitated. The siblings began collecting evidence, looking for any sign that William was no longer in full control of his mental faculties. They meticulously examined his recent financial decisions, his behavior in meetings, and even his interactions with the family. Every detail was analyzed and distorted to make it seem as if William was losing control. As the children conspired, the tension in the mansion grew. The celebratory atmosphere was quickly replaced by a heavy and distrustful environment. The staff whispered about the arguments between the family members, and the guests closest to the Crawford family also began to notice that something was wrong. The party, which had been meant to celebrate a life, now became a battleground for control of the Crawford legacy. Determined to find out what was happening, she began to pay more attention to her uncle's movements. She watched them from a distance, noticing the furtive meetings and whispered conversations. One night, as she was walking through the mansion's corridors, she heard voices coming from the library. Curious, she approached quietly and, through the slightly ajar door, managed to hear the conversation. Her uncles were openly discussing their plan to declare William mentally unfit and thus take control of the company and inheritance. Emily's heart raced. She knew she had to do something to stop this evil plan. Without wasting any time, she ran to her grandfather's room and knocked urgently on the door. William, seeing the worried expression on his granddaughter's face, allowed her to enter. Emily told him everything she had heard, not hiding the concern and fear in her voice. William remained silent for a few moments, processing the information. He had always known that his children were ambitious, but such direct betrayal hit him deeply. However, he was not a man who would easily be defeated. With a determined glint in his eyes, William hugged Emily and thanked her for her courage. "We won't let them bring us down, Emily. We'll fight for what is right," he said firmly. They began to devise a plan to expose William's children and protect the family's integrity. William and Emily worked together, gathering documents and testimonies that proved William's sanity and competence. Additionally, they sought support from close friends and allies who could testify on his behalf. William also prepared for a direct confrontation, determined to face his children and expose their true intentions. With each step of the plan, Emily felt more confident. She admired her grandfather's calmness and determination, even in the face of such betrayal. Together, they were ready to face the coming storm, strengthened by love and justice. The day of the confrontation arrived. William's children, confident in their victory, presented forged documents and manipulated testimonies, trying to prove that their father was mentally incapacitated. The media was present, ready to cover the scandal of the powerful Crawford family. But, to their surprise, William and Emily were ready to counter every accusation. During the public hearing, William, supported by his lawyers and loyal friends, presented irrefutable evidence of his sanity. Carefully prepared financial documents, solid business decisions, and even medical evaluations attesting to his full mental capacity were displayed. The children, caught off guard, desperately tried to salvage their plan, but the evidence was overwhelming. Moreover, William seized the opportunity to reveal his children's true motivations. With Emily's help, who had documented the suspicious conversations and secret meetings of her uncles, he exposed their greed and betrayal. The revelation that the children were willing to destroy their father's reputation to gain the inheritance shocked the public and the media. "I have always believed in the strength of family and the value of integrity," William said, addressing the court and the public. "But it is sad to see that not everyone shares these values. Today, I am here not only to defend my sanity, but to protect the legacy of honesty and justice that I have built over my lifetime." The attempt to discredit William was a complete failure. The children, now unmasked, faced not only public disapproval, but also possible legal consequences for their actions. William, on the other hand, emerged from the crisis with his reputation intact and the gratitude of many who respected his courage and integrity. 3 weeks later, William passed away peacefully at his home, with Emily by his side. The young girl felt the loss deeply, but she was also proud of her grandfather, who had fought to the end for what he believed in. The children, on the other hand, were certain they could finally take control of the inheritance. However, they were surprised once again. William, anticipating his children's betrayal, had altered his will in the last weeks of his life. All his fortune and properties were left to Emily. This decision, based on the love and trust he had in his granddaughter, was a final lesson about the true value of family and character. Emily, now the heir to a vast empire, vowed to honor her grandfather's legacy. She decided to use the resources to support causes he valued, such as the fight against prejudice and discrimination, and to help those in need. William's children, defeated and demoralized, had to deal with the consequences of their own actions. Thus, the story of the Crawford family came to a close, with Emily carrying the torch of the family's legacy. She became a symbol of justice and courage, showing that despite the challenges and pain, it is possible to emerge stronger and more determined.